Welcome to One Mind Zen. Tonight's Dharma talk is given by Haengdal Citta.
So, unfortunately, Sid could not join us this evening. However, I was discussing the talk with him, and he asked me to share an anecdote and a sutra that he learned once with you. At a certain point in his English travels, wandering in search of the Dharma, he found himself walking down the side of Highway 61. And off the side of the highway, he found this wonderful little Buddhist temple and entered in and took off his shoes and bowed, and he found a couple of monks inside the temple, and they were chanting one of the sutras of Dylan Bodhisattva. And Sid was really quite taken with this, and he asked for me to share it with the Sangha. Mahanirodha Moha Sutra. You walk into the room with your pencil in your hand. You try so hard, but you don't understand because something is happening here, but you don't know what it is. So you ask, is this where it is? And somebody points to you and says it's his. You say, what's mine? And somebody else says, well, what is? But something is happening. You don't know what it is. So you walk into another room and you frown. You put your eyes in your pocket, your nose on the ground, but something is happening and you don't know what it is. You've been with professors and they've all liked your looks. With great warriors you have discussed lepers and crooks. You're very well read, it's well known, but something is happening here and you don't know what it is. Something is happening and you don't know what it is. Do you, Mr. Moha? You can't figure it out intellectually. Start right there. I saw a book a couple weeks ago, which was a volume of appropriate capping phrases in response to koans. I've seen in other places books of the actual answers, the approved annotated versions. And it is so antithetical to the practice of a koan or a ladu or just about any Zen teaching. It's not an intellectual exercise. I remember a friend once who said about sitting quietly and he used to think of things, and one time he designed a new doghouse with a heater for his dog in winter. Now that's obviously the extreme, but how much of our time sitting do we spend thinking, reasoning, replaying, having the argument with somebody that's not in the room? One of my ongoing favorites. And when we have opportunities to practice Zen, to work with a teacher, the first impulse is always to think. You got to think through it. It's Zen. It makes no sense. I have to make it make sense. I have to compartmentalize this in a way that my over-rational human mind can cope with my need, my desire, my fixation on it making sense, on thinking my way through these answers, these puzzles, these questions, these koans. And the word moha in Sanskrit is delusion, ignorance. It's included in a number of things. It's obviously one of the three poisons of the traditional triad of things to avoid and get away from. But it's delusion. Delusion is the cause of many of the other poisons. It's the cause of anger, of greed, because we don't understand our fundamental relationship to ourselves, to anything else, to the interconnectedness of everything. And even in Buddhism, the tendency, the trap, the pitfall is to jump in into trying to intellectualize that. And sure, we read books, we study scriptures, we try to find answers or at least clues. I prefer clues, signposts, maybe. Walk down the path that way. But it's still our human tendency with our mind to try and reason our way through this. Sun Tzu said, using intellectual understanding to find your true nature is like expecting a hungry man to satisfy his gnawing hunger with a picture of a banana. Zen teaching is not like this. Zen teaching says, open your mouth, here's a banana, eat. Sid, if he were giving this talk instead of me, might say, here's some crunchy granola, eat. There's not a way to reason through it. The questions are, in many cases, if not most, more important than the answers. The answers change and fluctuate. The answers change with the appropriate action or skillful means of the day. The answers change depending on the other sentient being that you may be dealing with and how to approach them. The answers change with whether you need to respond with loving kindness or charity or patience, or the diamond paramita of even knowing which is the proper paramita to apply to the situation, form, and function. It's not an intellectual exercise. Intellectualism, while it's a tool that serves us very well as human sentient beings in our daily lives, is also a trap. Because once we think we know, once we think we understand, we are no longer free to see. Once we think we have absolutely attained ultimate truth, we're certainly not don't know mind, only don't know, beginner's mind. Just this. We stop functioning when we start knowing everything. And the origin of knowing everything is thinking that if I just read one more Zen book, if I just study one more sutra, if I just sit here in lotus posture for 37 hours pondering this koan, I'm gonna get it. But what did the giants whose shoulders we stand on do? They didn't have the endless books, the masters and many of the stories walked by the students having the intellectual arguments about this means this. Is the flag moving? Is the mind moving? Is wind moving? Is that rock real or in your head? Your head must be heavy with a rock in it. Over and over again, they say, stop, 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 stop. A couple of weeks ago, we had our Zen Jeopardy, and one of the questions was about Gute. Is one finger Zen? What is the meaning of Zen? So he asks the student, what is the meaning of Zen? Student holds up his finger, he chops off his finger. That's parroting. Parroting is another intellectual exercise. Okay, how many cool answers can I remember? Or how can I be just a little wittier in my answer, or just a little more interesting, or twist it around? It's still our mind trapping us into a place where we're preventing ourselves from seeing things as it is. Whether that's a koan or a stranger on the street, that trap of thinking, you know what, I am smarter than anybody that ever lived, including the Buddha. And if I just apply this magnificent thing that's filling my head, I can figure it out. Talk about ego. So what do? We recognize, just don't know. Something is happening here and you don't know what it is. Now, obviously, Dylan was talking to the journalists and all the people trying to figure out what his song meant and what this meant and what that meant. The concept is the same. Be here now, dude. Drop it. Put down the pencil. Stop studying me. Stop staring. Stop analyzing. Stop. Here now. What is happening at this moment? Where are we at this moment? Who is this witnessing this moment? These are the teachings of our school. These are the teachings of Sung San. And I'll leave you with a verse from Sung San that I think ties up what he was saying with the previous quote. Blue sky and green sea are the Buddha's original face. The sound of the waterfall and the bird's song are the great sutras. Where are you going? Watch your step. Water flows down to the sea. Clouds float up to the heavens.